My boyfriend's ex stole his dog, so I just earned the best girlfriend award. My boyfriend grabbed his keys mid-sentence and said, "She's at the park right now." I looked up from my coffee. What? He shoved his phone in my face. The photo showed his dog, the one his ex refused to give back after their breakup, sitting in Riverside Park with her tongue out, tail mid-wag. The timestamp said 12 minutes ago. "We need to go," he said, already heading for the door. I didn't even put my cup down, I just followed. He drove like someone running out of time, hands tight on the wheel, jaw clenched. I kept staring at the photo, trying to make sense of why she would send this now after 4 months of silence. What if she's already gone? I asked. Then we keep looking. We pulled into the park, and he was out of the car before I even unbuckled. He took off toward the open field, scanning every direction, every person, every animal. I jogged to keep up. "There," he said, pointing toward the tree line. A woman stood near the edge with a brown and white dog on a leash. Same markings, same build, same floppy ears Daisy had in every photo on his dresser. We started walking faster. The woman glanced over her shoulder, saw us coming, and immediately turned away. She tugged the leash and started moving toward the far parking lot. "Hey!" he called out. "Wait!" She didn't stop. She picked up speed, half walking, half jogging now. He broke into a run and I followed because this wasn't normal. People don't run from strangers in a park unless something's wrong. We were maybe 30 feet behind when she reached a sedan. She opened the back door, the dog jumped in, and she slammed it shut. He ran up to the driver's side as she climbed in and locked the doors. "That's my dog!" he shouted, knocking on the window. She shook her head and started the engine. He kept knocking, but she threw the car into reverse and backed out. He had to step away or get hit. Then she was gone. He stood there in the empty parking space, staring at nothing. "That was her," he said. "That was Daisy." "Are you sure?" "I know my dog." We walked back to the car. When we got in, he didn't start the engine. He just sat there with his hands on the wheel, staring through the windshield. Then he pulled out his phone and opened his messages. The photo from his ex was still there. He typed, "Where is she?" He hit send. We waited. 5 minutes, 10, nothing. "She's not going to answer," he said. He started the car and pulled out. The drive home was silent except for the sound of him checking his phone at red lights. Still nothing. When we got back to the apartment, he went to the bedroom and came out carrying a cardboard box. He set it on the coffee table and opened it. Inside were vet records, adoption paperwork, receipts. There was a collar with a metal tag engraved with his name and phone number. Photos of Daisy as a puppy, Daisy on the couch, Daisy asleep on his chest. He spread everything across the table like evidence. "I'm getting her back," he said. I looked at the pile, then at him. He wasn't asking for permission. "Okay," I said. "Then let's figure out how." He pulled the vet records closer. The most recent one was from 2 years ago, right before the breakup. His name was listed as the owner. The microchip registration had his contact information. "Do you have texts from when you first got her?" I asked. He nodded and started swiping through old messages. He found a thread from 3 years back with photos of Daisy as a puppy, messages between him and the rescue coordinator, confirmation of the adoption fee. He screenshotted everything. "What about when you two broke up?" I asked. "Did she ever say she was keeping Daisy?" He scrolled further and stopped on a message from his ex sent 5 months ago. It just said, "I'm keeping her. Don't contact me again." No explanation, no negotiation, just one sentence and then nothing. "She blocked me after that," he said. I picked up one of the photos. It showed him and Daisy on a hiking trail, both looking exhausted and happy. The way she leaned into him made it obvious they belonged together. "We'll get her back," I said. He looked at me like he wanted to believe it but didn't know how. The next morning he tried calling his ex from my phone. She picked up on the second ring, probably thinking it was someone else. "Hello? It's me," he said. "I saw Daisy yesterday. I know you still have her." The line went silent for a second, then she laughed. Not a real laugh. The kind that's meant to make you feel crazy. "I don't know what you're talking about. You sent me a picture. At Riverside Park. I went there and someone drove off with her." "That wasn't me," she said. "And even if it was, she's not your dog anymore. The microchip says otherwise." "Good luck proving that," she said and hung up. He set the phone down on the table and stared at it like it might ring again. It didn't. "She's not going to make this easy," I said. "She never does." He opened his laptop and started searching for animal control offices, shelters, anywhere that might have records or be able to help. I sat next to him and pulled up the county website. There was a section on reporting stolen animals, but it required proof of ownership and a police report. "Do you think the police will take this seriously?" I asked. "I don't know. Maybe. She didn't technically steal Daisy. She just refused to give her back after we broke up. That's still theft. Not if she claims Daisy was a gift or that we got her together." "But you have the adoption papers. Your name's on them." "Yeah, but she lived with us for 2 years. She'll say it was joint custody or something." He kept scrolling through pages, clicking links, reading through policies. I could see him getting more frustrated with every dead end. Finally, he closed the laptop and rubbed his face. "I should have fought harder for her when we broke up," he said. "I just wanted it to be over. I thought she'd calm down and we could figure it out later. But she blocked me and disappeared. You tried. She made it impossible. I should have gone to her apartment. I should have called the cops right then. You didn't know she'd do this." He stood up and walked to the window. Outside, a couple was walking their dog down the sidewalk. He watched them until they disappeared around the corner. "I need to find out where she's keeping Daisy," he said. "If I can prove she's there, maybe I can get someone to help." "Do you know where she lives now?" "No. She moved after the breakup. I don't even know if she's still in the city." I thought about the woman at the park, the way she ran when she saw us, the way she locked the doors and drove off without saying a word. "What if that wasn't your ex?" I asked. "What if she's having someone else watch Daisy?" He turned around. "Like a friend? Or she's boarding her somewhere. Maybe that's why the woman ran. She knew you'd recognize the dog." He walked back to the table and opened the laptop again. This time he searched for dog boarding facilities and daycare centers in the area. There were dozens. Too many to check without more information. "We need to narrow it down," I said. "Where did you see her in the photo?" "Riverside Park. But she could have just been visiting. That doesn't mean she lives nearby. Or she does. If your ex is having someone else take care of Daisy, they might be local. They might bring her to that park regularly." He pulled up a map and marked the location of the park. Then he started circling nearby boarding facilities and shelters. There were 5 within a 3-mile radius. "We can start with these," he said. "What are we going to say? We can't just walk in and accuse them of hiding a stolen dog. We'll say we're looking for a lost dog, show them a picture and ask if they've seen her. And if they have, then we figure it out from there." He saved the addresses and closed the laptop. Then he picked up his phone and scrolled through the photos until he found one of Daisy. She was sitting in the grass, ears perked up, looking directly at the camera. He stared at it for a long time before setting the phone back down. I just want her back, he said quietly. I don't care what I have to do. Then we'll do it, I said. We'll check every single place until we find her. He nodded, but he didn't look convinced. He looked like someone trying to hold on to hope when everything kept slipping through his fingers. The first place we checked was a daycare center 2 miles from Riverside Park. The woman at the front desk was friendly, but said they didn't have any dogs matching Daisy's description. She let us look at the sign-in sheet and none of the names matched his ex's. The second place was a boarding facility near the highway. The guy there barely looked at the photo before shaking his head. He said they only took reservations through their website and couldn't share client information. The third place wouldn't let us past the front desk. They said privacy policies prevented them from discussing any animals in their care, even with a photo. He tried explaining the situation, but the manager cut him off and suggested we contact the police instead. By the time we got to the fourth location, he was barely speaking. He handed them the photo, they said no, and we left. No argument, no explanation, just silence. The fifth place was a small rescue on the edge of town. It looked more like someone's house than a business. There was a handwritten sign on the door that said to ring the bell, so I did. A woman in her 50s answered, wiping her hands on a towel. Can I help you? He showed her the photo. We're looking for this dog. She's missing. We think someone might have brought her here. The woman squinted at the screen, then looked up at him. What's her name? Daisy. She didn't say anything right away, just looked at him, then at me, then back at the photo. Come inside, she said. The woman led us through a narrow hallway lined with kennels. Dogs barked as we passed, some jumping against the gates, others watching quietly from the back of their spaces. She stopped at a small office at the end and gestured for us to sit. I can't give you any information about animals in our care, she said, but I can tell you that a woman brought in a dog matching that description about 3 weeks ago, said she needed temporary boarding while she sorted out housing. He leaned forward. Did she give a name? She did, but it wasn't Daisy, and the woman's name didn't match anything you've mentioned. Can you tell us what name she used? The woman hesitated. I shouldn't, but if you have proof this dog is yours, you should take it to animal control. They can run the microchip and verify ownership. We tried that. They said we need to know where the dog is first. Then you're in a tough spot, she said. I can't confirm or deny if the dog is still here. If she is, and you show up with the authorities, we'll cooperate fully. But I can't hand over an animal based on a photo. He pulled out his phone and showed her the adoption paperwork, the vet records, everything we'd saved. She looked through it all carefully, then handed the phone back. This is solid, she said, but you need to go through the proper channels. If you're right and this is your dog, animal control will handle it. I'm sorry I can't do more. We left the rescue and sat in the car for a few minutes without saying anything. He stared at the building like he was trying to decide whether to go back in and demand answers. She basically told us Daisy's in there, I said, but she won't confirm it. And even if she did, they won't just give her to me. So we go to animal control. We show them everything and tell them where she is. He nodded, but he didn't start the car. He just sat there looking defeated. What if they don't believe me? He said. What if my ex shows up with some fake paperwork and they side with her? She can't fake a microchip. She could say I'm harassing her. She could file a restraining order. She could make this so complicated that I never see Daisy again. I didn't have an answer for that because he was right. His ex had already proven she'd do whatever it took to keep him from getting Daisy back. We have to try, I said. We're this close. He finally started the car and pulled out of the lot. We drove straight to the county animal control office. The building was small and institutional, with a waiting area that smelled like disinfectant and wet fur. A woman at the front desk asked how she could help, and he explained the situation as clearly as he could. She listened, took notes, and said an officer would speak with us shortly. We sat in plastic chairs and waited. Other people came and went, someone turning in a lost cat, someone asking about adoption fees. Every time the door opened, he looked up like he was expecting his ex to walk in. After 20 minutes, an officer called us back to a small room with a table and 2 chairs. He introduced himself, sat down, and asked us to start from the beginning. My boyfriend walked him through everything. The breakup, the refusal to return Daisy, the photo at the park, the rescue that hinted she was there. He showed the officer every document, every text, every piece of evidence we had. The officer looked through it all, then leaned back in his chair. This is clearly your dog, he said. But here's the issue. If she's being boarded at a private facility and someone else's name is on the paperwork, we need cooperation from that facility to verify the dog's identity. We can't just show up and demand to see every animal they have. But the microchip has my name on it, my boyfriend said. Doesn't that matter? It does. But we need to confirm it's the same dog first. Do you know for sure she's at that rescue? The woman basically told us she was. Basically isn't enough. If you can get confirmation, a name, a kennel number, anything concrete, we can move forward. Otherwise, I'd need a warrant, and that requires more evidence than what we have right now. So what am I supposed to do? Keep looking. If you see the dog again, get photos, get video, get anything that ties her to a specific location. Once we have that, we can act. We left the office and stood in the parking lot. The sun was setting and the air was getting colder. He kicked at the gravel and didn't say anything for a long time. This is insane, he finally said. I have proof she's mine. I know where she is, and no one will help me. They will. We just need more. I don't know what more I can get. I can't exactly break into the rescue and take a picture of her. No, but we can go back to the park. If your ex is having someone take care of Daisy, maybe they bring her there regularly. Maybe we can catch them again. He looked at me like he didn't believe it would work, but didn't have any better ideas. Okay, he said, let's try. We spent the next 3 days going to Riverside Park at different times. Morning, afternoon, evening. We walked the trails, sat on benches, watched every dog that passed by. Some looked similar, but none of them were Daisy. On the 4th day, we were about to leave when he grabbed my arm and pointed toward the field. That's her. I looked where he was pointing. A man was throwing a ball and a brown and white dog was chasing after it. Same markings, same ears, same everything. We started walking toward them, but the man noticed us before we got close. He called the dog back, clipped on her leash, and started heading toward the parking lot. We picked up our pace, but so did he. By the time we reached the lot, he was already getting into a truck. My boyfriend ran up to the driver's side and knocked on the window. The man rolled it down halfway but kept the engine running. That's my dog, my boyfriend said. Her name is Daisy. She was taken from me. The man looked at him, then at me, then back at him. I don't know what you're talking about. Please, just look at this. He pulled out his phone and showed him the photos, the paperwork, everything. She's mine. Someone's been lying to you. The man glanced at the screen, then shook his head. I'm just taking care of her for a friend. I don't know anything about this. What's your friend's name? I can't tell you that. Then tell her to call me. Please, I just want my dog back. The man rolled up the window and backed out of the spot. My boyfriend stepped aside and the truck drove off. off. He stood there watching it disappear down the road. Did you get the license plate? I asked. He nodded and pulled out his phone. He'd taken a photo while the man was getting in the truck. The plate was clear. Now we have something, he said. We took the photo of the license plate back to animal control the next morning. The same officer met with us, looked at the picture, and said he'd run the plate to get a name and address. He told us to wait in the lobby, so we sat down and watched the clock. 20 minutes later, he came back with a printed sheet. The truck is registered to a guy named Bryce Coleman, the officer said. Address is local. But here's the thing. I can't just show up at his house and demand to see the dog based on a photo. I need more to go on. What more do you need? My boyfriend asked. We have proof she's mine. We have a witness who saw her at the rescue. We have a guy who admitted he's taking care of her for someone. What else is there? I need confirmation that the dog at his house is the same dog on your paperwork. If you can get me that, video, a clear photo showing her with him, anything, I can move forward. So we're supposed to go to his house and take pictures? I'm not telling you to do that. I'm saying I need concrete evidence before I can act. If you see the dog in public again, document it. Get video if you can. Make sure it's clear enough to identify her. Then I can take it from there. We left the office and sat in the car. My boyfriend stared at the address on the printout. We should go, he said. And do what? I don't know. See if she's there? Maybe talk to him again. He already said he wouldn't help. Then maybe I can at least see her, even if it's just through a window. I didn't think it was a good idea, but I could see he wasn't going to let it go. We drove to the address, a small house on a quiet street with a fenced backyard. There was a truck in the driveway, the same one from the park. We parked down the block and walked up slowly, trying not to look suspicious. The front yard was empty. The curtains were drawn. We couldn't see anything from the street, so we moved toward the side of the house where the fence was. My boyfriend stood on his toes and looked over. Then he went completely still. She's there, he whispered. I looked over the fence and saw Daisy lying in the grass, chewing on a toy. She looked healthy, happy even, but that didn't change anything. She wasn't supposed to be there. He pulled out his phone and started recording. He got about 10 seconds of footage before the back door opened and the man from the park stepped out. He saw us immediately. Hey, he shouted. What are you doing? My boyfriend lowered the phone. I just wanted to see her. You need to leave now. That's my dog, you know it is. I told you I'm just watching her for someone. This isn't my problem. Then tell me who asked you to watch her. Let me talk to them. The man walked toward the fence. I'm not telling you anything. If you don't leave, I'm calling the cops. Go ahead, call them. I have proof she's mine. The man pulled out his phone and started dialing. My boyfriend stood there for a second like he was trying to decide whether to stay or go. Then he turned and walked back to the car. I followed. We got in and drove away before the police showed up. That was stupid, I said. I know. He's probably going to tell your ex now. She's going to move Daisy somewhere else. I got video. That has to count for something. He pulled up the footage on his phone and played it back. It showed Daisy clearly. Her markings, her face, everything. It was undeniable. We went back to animal control and showed the officer the video. He watched it, nodded, and said it was enough to move forward. He told us he'd contact the man and arrange a time to verify the microchip. If it matched my boyfriend's information, the dog would be returned to him. If not, the case would be closed. How long will that take? My boyfriend asked. A few days, maybe a week. I'll call him today and set something up. We left feeling like we'd finally made progress, but that same afternoon, my boyfriend got a text from his ex. It was the first time she'd contacted him in months. The message said, "Stop harassing my friends or I'll file a restraining order." He showed it to me and I could see the frustration all over his face. She knows, he said. Bryce told her. That doesn't matter. Animal control is handling it now. She's going to move Daisy before they can verify the chip. I know she is. Then we tell the officer. We show him this text. It proves she's involved. He forwarded the message to the officer along with an explanation. The officer called back an hour later and said he'd moved up the timeline. He was going to Bryce's house the next day to check the microchip. He told us to stay home and let him handle it. We spent that night barely sleeping. My boyfriend kept checking his phone, waiting for updates. I tried to distract him with a movie, but he wasn't paying attention. He just sat there staring at the screen, thinking about what could go wrong. The next morning, the officer called. I went to the house. The dog's not there. What do you mean she's not there? Bryce said he gave her back to the owner yesterday. He wouldn't say who that was, but he claims the dog is no longer in his care. My boyfriend put the call on speaker so I could hear. Did you ask where she went? I did. He wouldn't answer. Said it wasn't his business to share someone else's information. So that's it? She's just gone? Not necessarily. I've opened a case for stolen property based on the evidence you provided. If the dog shows up anywhere, a vet, a groomer, another shelter, and they scan the chip, we'll be notified. But right now, I don't have a location. She's going to keep moving her around. We'll never find her. I understand your frustration, but my hands are tied without a confirmed location. Keep looking. If you see her again, call me immediately. The call ended. My boyfriend set the phone down and didn't say anything for a long time. This is insane, he finally said. She's playing games and no one's stopping her. The officer said if the chip gets scanned, we'll know. That's something. It's not enough. He stood up and started pacing. I could see him running through options in his head, trying to figure out what to do next. We need to find out where she lives, he said. If Bryce gave Daisy back to her, she has to be keeping her somewhere. We don't even know where your ex lives now. Then we figure it out. He opened his laptop and started searching. He checked her social media, but everything was private. He looked up property records, but nothing came up under her name. He even tried searching for her family members, hoping they might know something, but that led nowhere. After hours of searching, he found an old mutual friend's profile, someone who'd stayed in touch with his ex after the breakup. He sent them a message explaining the situation and asking if they knew where she was living now. The response came back an hour later. I don't want to get involved. Sorry. He tried 2 more people. Both ignored him. No one wants to help, he said. They think I'm the problem. You're not. She's the one hiding a stolen dog. They don't see it that way. They just see me chasing after my ex. He closed the laptop and leaned back on the couch. For the first time since this whole thing started, he looked like he was giving up. Maybe I should just let it go, he said quietly. You don't mean that. I don't know what else to do. Every time we get close, she moves her. Every time someone could help, they won't. I'm running out of options. I sat down next to him. We'll keep looking. We'll find her. He didn't respond. He just stared at the wall like he was too tired to keep fighting. 2 days later, my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize, so I almost didn't answer. But something told me to pick up. Hello? Hi, is this the person looking for a dog named Daisy? A woman's voice asked. I sat up straighter. Yes, who is this? My name is Rachel. I work at Paws and Claws Veterinary Clinic downtown. A woman brought in a dog this morning for a checkup, and when we scanned the microchip, it flagged in our system. Your boyfriend's name came up as the registered owner. Is the dog still there? She is. The woman left her here for blood work and said she'd be back in 2 hours. But based on the flag, I wanted to call before releasing the dog back to her. Don't let her take Daisy. Please. We've been trying to find her for weeks. I'll do what I can, but I need you to contact animal control and have them come down here. I can stall for a bit, but if the woman comes back and we refuse to return her dog, she could cause a scene. I told her we'd be there as fast as possible, then hung up and called my boyfriend. He didn't answer, so I texted him. They found Daisy. Vet clinic downtown. Call me now. He called back 30 seconds later, and I explained everything. He said he'd meet me there, then called the animal control officer while he was driving. I grabbed my keys and left immediately. The clinic was 15 minutes away. I got there first and walked inside. A young woman at the front desk smiled and asked if I needed help. I'm here about Daisy, I said. Rachel called me. Her expression shifted. Oh, yeah, hold on. She disappeared into the back and came out a minute later with an older woman who introduced herself as Rachel. The dog's in the back, Rachel said quietly. The woman who brought her in said her name was Bella, but the chip says Daisy, and the owner info doesn't match. We're waiting on animal control to sort it out. Can I see her? Rachel hesitated. I shouldn't let you back there until this is resolved, but between you and me, that dog's been pacing and whining since the woman left. She doesn't seem comfortable here. Before I could respond, the front door opened and my boyfriend walked in. He looked at me, then at Rachel. Is she here? Rachel nodded. In the back. Animal control is on their way. Can I see her? Not yet. I'm sorry. But as soon as the officer arrives, we'll get this sorted out. We sat down in the waiting area. My boyfriend kept checking his phone, watching the time. 30 minutes passed, then 45. Finally, the officer we'd been working with walked through the door. Rachel met him at the desk, and they spoke quietly for a few minutes before she led him to the back. We waited. I could hear muffled voices and the sound of a dog barking. Then Rachel came back out and motioned for us to follow her. In the exam room, Daisy was standing on the table, tail wagging the second she saw my boyfriend. She tried to jump toward him, but the vet tech held her back. The officer was standing next to the table with a scanner in his hand. We've confirmed the microchip, the officer said. It's registered to you. But the woman who brought her in claims she adopted the dog 6 months ago and has paperwork to prove it. That's impossible, my boyfriend said. I adopted her 3 years ago. She's been mine the whole time. Do you have the original adoption paperwork with you? He pulled out his phone and showed the officer the photos he'd saved. The officer compared them to something on his tablet, then nodded. These match the records we pulled, but the woman insists she has legitimate documentation. She's on her way back now to discuss it. What documentation could she possibly have? I asked. The microchip is registered to him. That's proof. It is. But if she's claiming she legally adopted the dog, we need to see what she has before we make a final decision. 20 minutes later, the door opened and his ex walked in. She stopped when she saw us, then turned to the officer. What is he doing here? He's the registered owner of the dog, the officer said calmly. We need to sort this out. I already told you, I adopted her. I have the paperwork in my car. Then please go get it. She left and came back a few minutes later with a folder. She handed it to the officer, who opened it and started reading. His expression didn't change, but after a minute, he looked up at her. This says you adopted a dog named Bella from a private rehoming 6 months ago. But the microchip on this dog was registered 3 years ago under a different name. Can you explain that? I don't know anything about a microchip. The person I got her from didn't mention it. Who did you get her from? She hesitated. A friend. They couldn't keep her anymore. What's the friend's name? I don't remember. The officer closed the folder. You don't remember the name of the person who gave you a dog 6 months ago? It was through a mutual acquaintance. I didn't get their full name. And you didn't think to check if the dog was microchipped? I didn't think I needed to. She was a gift. The officer looked at my boyfriend. Did you give this woman the dog? No. She kept her after we broke up and refused to return her. I've been trying to get her back for months. The officer turned back to the ex. Do you have any proof this dog was legally transferred to you? I just showed you the paperwork. This paperwork is for a dog named Bella. The microchip says her name is Daisy, and she's registered to him. Unless you can provide documentation showing a legal transfer of ownership, I have to return the dog to the registered owner. Her face went red. This is ridiculous. He's harassing me. He's been showing up at my friends' houses, stalking me. We have evidence of you moving the dog multiple times to avoid returning her, the officer said. That's not harassment. That's you refusing to return stolen property. She's not stolen, she's mine. The microchip says otherwise. She looked at my boyfriend, then at me, then back at the officer. Fine, keep the dog, but don't come near me again or I'll file a restraining order. She turned and walked out without another word. The door slammed behind her. The officer turned to my boyfriend. The dog is yours. You're free to take her home. The vet tech let go of Daisy, and she immediately jumped off the table and ran to him. She nearly knocked him over, tail wagging so hard her whole body shook. He dropped to one knee and wrapped his arms around her, and she licked his face like she'd been waiting for this moment forever. I watched from the doorway, and for the first time in weeks, I saw him smile. Not a forced smile, not a tired smile, a real one. Rachel walked up next to me. That's one happy dog. Yeah, I said. She is. The officer handed my boyfriend a leash. You'll need to update her registration with your current address, and if the woman tries to contact you again, let me know immediately. I will, thank you. We walked out of the clinic together, Daisy trotting between us like she'd never been gone. When we got to the car, she jumped into the back seat and curled up like she owned the place. My boyfriend sat in the driver's seat for a minute without starting the engine, just looking at her in the rearview mirror. I can't believe we got her back, he said. We did. He reached back and scratched Daisy behind the ears. She leaned into his hand and closed her eyes. Let's go home, he said. We were almost home when my boyfriend's phone rang. He put it on speaker. It was the animal control officer. I need you to come back to the clinic, the officer said. The woman just returned and she's making a scene. She's claiming we illegally seized her dog and she's threatening to call the police. We're 10 minutes away, my boyfriend said and turned the car around. When we pulled into the clinic parking lot, his ex was standing outside arguing with Rachel through the glass door. She was yelling loud enough that we could hear her from the car. My boyfriend grabbed Daisy's leash and we got out. The second his ex saw us, she pointed. That's him. He's been stalking me for weeks. The officer was standing near the entrance with his arms crossed. Ma'am, I've already explained this to you. The microchip is registered to him. He's the legal owner. I don't care what the microchip says. I've had that dog for 6 months. I fed her, I took care of her, and now you're just handing her over to someone who abandoned her. I didn't abandon her, my boyfriend said, walking closer. You kept her after we broke up and refused to give her back. Because you didn't deserve her. You were never home. You didn't take care of her. I did. That's not true. I have 3 years of vet records proving I took care of her. You have fake paperwork from 6 months ago. She turned to the officer. He's lying. I can show you receipts, photos, everything. That dog is mine. Then show me, the officer said. She pulled out her phone and started scrolling. She showed him photos of Daisy in what looked like an apartment. Daisy on a couch. Daisy in a kitchen. The officer looked at them, then looked at my boyfriend. Do you recognize this location? No, that's not my apartment. That's not anywhere I've ever lived. The ex smirked. Exactly, because she's been living with me. Since when? The officer asked. You said you got her 6 months ago, but according to him, you two broke up over a year ago. Where was the dog before that? She hesitated. She was with me the whole time. So you've had her for over a year? Yes. Then why does your paperwork say you adopted her 6 months ago? Her face went blank. I meant that's when I officially adopted her. Before that, we had joint custody. There's no such thing as joint custody for pets, the officer said. Either you owned her, or he did. And the microchip says he did. The microchip is wrong. He probably registered it under his name without telling me. I registered it the day I adopted her, my boyfriend said. 3 years ago. You weren't even in the picture yet. She turned to him. That's a lie. We got her together. No, we didn't. I adopted her from a rescue 2 months before we started dating. I have the paperwork. I have photos. I have everything. Then why did I take care of her after we broke up? Because you refused to let me in the apartment to get her. You changed the locks and blocked my number. She laughed, but it didn't sound real. You're insane. I never changed the locks. You just stopped caring about her and moved on. I tried to get her back for months. You ignored every message, every call, every attempt. Then you moved without telling me where you went. Because you were harassing me. I was trying to get my dog back. The officer stepped between them. Enough, ma'am. I've reviewed the evidence. The microchip registration is clear. The dog belongs to him. If you believe you have a legal claim, you can take it up in civil court. But right now, the dog is going home with him. Her face went red. This is insane. You're letting him steal my dog. It's not your dog. It is. I've been taking care of her. Taking care of someone else's property doesn't make it yours. If I borrow your car for 6 months, that doesn't mean I own it. She turned to Rachel, who was still standing in the doorway. You scanned the chip. You know it's registered to him. But that doesn't prove anything. He could have registered it without my knowledge. Rachel shook her head. The chip was registered 3 years ago. The records show his name, his address at the time, and his contact information. There's no record of you being listed as an owner or co-owner. Then the records are wrong. They're not wrong. They're public record. Anyone can verify them. The ex pulled out her phone again. I'm calling my lawyer. Go ahead, the officer said. But the dog isn't staying here while you figure it out. He's the registered owner and she's going home with him. She dialed a number and put the phone to her ear. After a few seconds, she started talking to someone, explaining the situation in a voice that was half yelling, half crying. The person on the other end must have told her something she didn't want to hear because she hung up after less than a minute. My lawyer says I need to file a civil suit, she said. Fine, I'll do that. But don't think this is over. It is over, my boyfriend said. You kept her from me for over a year. You lied about how you got her. You moved her around to keep me from finding her. You're not getting her back. She looked at him, then at Daisy, who was sitting calmly at his side. Daisy wasn't barking, wasn't pulling toward the ex. She was just sitting there, leaning slightly against my boyfriend's leg. She doesn't even remember you, the ex said quietly. Yes, she does. He knelt down and Daisy immediately turned toward him, tail wagging. She licked his face and pressed her head into his chest. He wrapped his arms around her and didn't say anything for a moment. When he stood up, the ex was staring at them. Her expression had changed. She didn't look angry anymore. She looked defeated. I took care of her, she said, and her voice cracked. I loved her. I know, my boyfriend said, but she was never yours to keep. The officer handed him a copy of the incident report. If she contacts you again or tries to take the dog, call me immediately. I've documented everything, and if this goes to court, you'll have all the evidence you need. Thank you. We walked back to the car. Daisy jumped into the back seat and curled up like she'd been doing it her whole life. My boyfriend sat in the driver's seat and stared at the steering wheel. You okay? I asked. Yeah, I didn't think this would actually work. It did. She's home. He looked back at Daisy, who was already falling asleep. Then he started the car and pulled out of the lot. His ex was still standing outside the clinic, watching us leave. She didn't move. She just stood there until we turned the corner, and she disappeared from view. On the drive home, my boyfriend called his sister and told her everything. She screamed so loud I could hear her through the phone. She said she'd come over tomorrow to see Daisy and bring her favorite toys that she'd been keeping at her place. He thanked her and hung up, then looked at me. I don't know what I would have done without you, he said. You would have figured it out. I don't think so. I was ready to give up. You kept pushing. Because she's your dog and you deserve to get her back. He reached over and took my hand. We didn't say anything else for the rest of the drive. When we got home, Daisy jumped out of the car and ran straight to the front door like she remembered exactly where she was. My boyfriend unlocked the door and she bolted inside, sniffing every corner, every piece of furniture, every room. She found her old bed in the corner of the living room and laid down on it, curling into a ball. My boyfriend sat on the floor next to her and just watched her breathe. After a few minutes, she rolled over and put her head in his lap. He scratched behind her ears and didn't say anything. I made dinner while they sat there. When I came back into the living room, he was still on the floor, and Daisy was still asleep in his lap. He looked up at me and smiled. She's really home, he said. She is. I don't think I'm going to let her out of my sight for a while. I don't blame you. That night, Daisy slept at the foot of the bed. My boyfriend kept waking up to check on her, like he was making sure she was still there. Every time he did, she'd lift her head and wag her tail, then go back to sleep. By morning, he finally looked like he believed it was real. 3 days later, we got a letter in the mail. It was from his ex's lawyer, threatening legal action for emotional distress and claiming she had rights to the dog. My boyfriend read it once, then handed it to me. Should I be worried? He asked. No, she has no case. The microchip proves ownership. Her lawyer probably told her the same thing, but she's trying one last time to scare you. He didn't respond to the letter. A week passed, then 2, and nothing else came. No calls, no texts, no threats. It was like she finally accepted it was over. Daisy adjusted quickly. She remembered where everything was. Her bed, her food bowls, the spot by the window where she used to sit and watch the street. She followed my boyfriend everywhere, even to the bathroom. At night, she'd curl up between us on the couch, and he'd absently scratch her ears while we watched TV. One evening, he looked at me and said, I don't think I ever thanked you properly. You don't need to. I do. You didn't have to help me with any of this. You could have told me to let it go, but you didn't, because it mattered to you, and she's family. He looked down at Daisy, who was half asleep with her head on his leg. Yeah, she is. For the first time since I'd known him, he didn't have that distant look anymore. He wasn't staring out the window wondering where she was. He wasn't checking his phone hoping for a message. He was just here, present, whole. Daisy yawned and stretched, then settled back into his lap. He smiled and kept scratching her ears. We're good now, he said quietly, and I believed him.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and drop your favorite part in the comments. See you in the next one.